It's weird. I haven't watched a Bellular video in so long.
Okay, this is going to be a fun video. Tell me if you've heard something like this recently. World of Warcraft is facing a mass exodus. Everyone's leaving. The cities are empty, the guilds are dying, and the only people left are the boosters and the boosted. It's worse than ever before. Have you heard something like that?
Yeah.
Because I think we've all heard some sentiment like that across the internet. You know, looking at the forums, the social media, I think we can all say that it's gone a little bit wrong.
A little bit.
The sentimental and anecdotal evidence is, not actually that useful. Do you know what is very useful?
What?
Data. Numbers.
No,
and
my feelings
they
are
tell
more
us a
useful than
story.
data. What
So
do you mean?
today we're going to get into it. We're going to break down the numbers for World of Warcraft to get an overall picture of the game's health.
Okay.
Now, of course, Blizzard don't share their numbers, but we've dug up quite a lot.
There's a lot of ways you can tell.
Use some intuition. It's going to be pretty big.
Okay.
But like with your intuition, which is probably saying that it's time to get a great site together with today's sponsor, squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming, where you'll get a free trial.
I knew
and the code
I knew it was
Gaming
coming.
gets you 10% off your first.
It's like whenever the vocal change, there it is.
Purchase.
Like the tone
link
change.
Is down below.
I knew I was about to get hit by an ad.
Squarespace are the fastest and easiest way to get a great looking site quickly.
Dude, I wish I had this back in the day.
40 minutes, just chilling out with my iPad on the sofa.
I would be so happy if I had
barely
this.
any time to add e-commerce to it. It's pretty damn sweet. They've got an excellent site builder, easy to use tools, and incredible templates that are all that you need to get started. So, start your free trial at squarespace.com/Bellular Gaming.
There you go,
and
man.
Use the code
You can go make a
Bellular Gaming
website
for
about
10%
how
off
you don't
your
like
purchase.
ads.
All right, let's get into these juicy numbers. Okay, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. This might get a little dry, so here's something to wet your appetite
Time is
with.
extremely valuable, though. That's why I'm on Twitch.
World of Warcraft almost certainly has less than 2 million active players right now. A generous estimate is around the 1.6 million mark, but it could be as low as 1.2 million. And that's as of 9.1, by the way. These numbers actually don't take into account the recent explosion of bad PR. Moving from 9.0 to 9.1, World of Warcraft lost about half of its player base. I mean, literally half the active characters and half the raiding guilds stopped. Mythic Plus activity is down substantially, and PvP
What the fuck? What the fuck? Look at that blue line. Well, I guess it went away. Oh, it went away because the expansion. Yeah, of course.
And
BFA. Yeah, I was
participation
confused
has
for a
fallen
second.
off a cliff, as has activity there.
Wow.
Player retention is rather in the bin, and we do have evidence here.
First boss and
also,
last boss.
At a rough estimate, just over 10% of active characters actually raid. We'll explain that later.
Okay.
Now, for Blizzard overall, user numbers are actually their lowest in years. And that's actually in the same quarter as 9.1 and TBC Classic.
That is crazy.
Take a second for this. When do you think Blizzard's numbers have recently been the lowest? If you're thinking about sweaty orcs, pounding drums, and an
I would say that they've probably... I think right now they're the lowest than they've ever been. I think right now. Because the difference between now and 2014 or 15 or 16, whenever WoD came out and WoD was the expansion, is that there were not a lot of alternatives for other games. I think that now, because there's a lot of other alternatives, it's easier for people to make a switch quickly and then come back later on if they want to.
Expansion cut short, then you're right. Because the last time that Blizzard's monthly active users were this low, well, it was before Legion, it was before Overwatch. In Q1 2016, they had 26 million monthly active users. In Q2 2021, despite TBC Classic going live and patch 9.1 releasing on the last day,
that is crazy.
They're back down there again at 26 million.
Wow.
Now, for a comparison, their peak was 46 million in 2017.
That was like right after Overwatch.
With Overwatch pumping, Diablo launching the Necromancer, and Hearthstone popping off, all while Legion was in the midst of patch 7.2.
Which was good.
But
that was the Mage
how
Tower.
does this 26 million monthly active users apply to World of Warcraft? Well, it's time to bring out our secret weapon, reading in between the lines.
Oh,
because
reading.
when talking about World of Warcraft, all they said
on.
in their investor slides was that net bookings grew, driven by TBC Classic's launch. You know, 6-month subs, store mounts, and the Dark Portal Pass,
Yeah.
they did their job, right?
They
Turning
sure did.
existing users into whales, meaning that bleeding players isn't as big a deal to your bottom line.
No.
The most important thing is that Shadowlands was not mentioned specifically, and I think that means that they basically had nothing nice to say to their investors about it.
Yeah, it's like if they had something good to say about Shadowlands, like with growth and the patch, I think that they probably would have said it, you know? Like, that's what makes sense. Yeah, it's not long-term, though. These people don't think long-term because they're going to be out of the company in 3 years and onto another company with a golden parachute and a $7 million signing bonus. So, or 7-figure signing bonus. So they don't really give a fuck. They don't care.
So, if you want the zingers, if you want the numbers in their simplest form, then in a way, there you go. There absolutely has been an exodus across the world of Warcraft and Blizzard in general, even before the big recent controversies. But that's not satisfying, is it? That doesn't make for a good video, and it's not even close to the full story or all of the evidence.
Yeah.
We have to go deeper. It gets worse.
Let's go deeper.
But also better.
Okay, here we go.
Blizzard are tight-lipped about individual numbers for their games because that lets them control the narrative. Thanks to WoWranks.io, though, we know roughly how many characters there are in World of Warcraft because the Armory API exists and all this data can be scraped. In the 28 days before August 2nd, there were just over 3 million characters who logged into World of Warcraft at least once and belonged to a covenant. On February 2nd, that same statistic was 6.1 million. That is less than half the active characters after 6 months. Not good. Now, for context, these 6.1 on February, that is once belonged to a covenant. On February 2nd, that same statistic was 6.1 million. That is less than half the active characters after 6 months.
Oh my god. Oh, it's so bad. Oh my god. Yeah, they said the jailer was Thanos. Apparently he just did the snap off screen. It makes sense. Yeah, he did the snap off screen. The same as like most things in the plot happen.
Not good.
That's crazy.
Now for context, these characters must be either max level or currently
broke the fourth
doing
wall.
Threads of Fate in order to have actually picked a covenant.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them be included in the dataset. We can narrow this down by looking at how many characters have active soulbinds, because those only become available at level 60.
Yeah.
Now, we only have this figure for the patch 9.1 data, and it's 2.7 million. Now, since the real activity of Shadowlands is in the endgame, that's what we can call our active player count.
Holy shit.
Sorry if you're below max level, you absolutely do matter. It's just we can't track you. We have...
So does this mean that... Oh, that's insane. 60% drop off is... And this is is this accounting or not accounting for alts, though? Yeah, I think this doesn't even account for alts. Like, this is including alts as well. It does account? Well, how does it account if they said the number was lower? I guess they'll explain it later.
No
I think
way
this
of
is just
knowing
characters.
All these characters, how many are alts? But if we assume the average is anywhere between 1.5 and 3 alts per player, then it does paint a dark picture. Remember, you might only have one character, but there are those people with loads of alts.
Active characters.
World of Warcraft basically
players
is between 1 and 2 million players.
Wow.
At least in that end game pot.
I see it. I understand it now.
Alt estimate might seem high.
Let me look at this again. So there's a little bit over 2 million. Active players, 3 alt average. Oh, okay. So this is like basically... All right, so this is like 1 out of every, like, I don't know, like out of every 10 people, every 15 people, 10 of them have alts or something like that. Yeah. Okay, that's nuts, man.
That alt estimate might seem high to you, but remember, it's just max level characters who logged in during the month of a new patch.
Jesus.
Now, Shadowlands isn't exactly an alt-friendly experience, but returning players are almost certainly going to be logging into other characters at least once.
Yeah.
For an example,
Yeah.
on our team, Matt is pretty sure that he counts for 6. Yeah, 6 characters. Even though really he only raid logs on just 1 character.
Yeah, I
when he's
only really
healing
play
for
one
our
character.
raids. So there's your zinger. There were 2.7 million logged in max level characters during patch launch. If we say the average player logged onto 2 characters, then that takes you down to 1.35 million active endgame players. To get an even clearer picture, 9.1 has had 1.8 million unique characters complete a Mythic Plus run. That number also includes alts. All of these things point to a big takeaway. World of Warcraft basically must be... All of these things...
Oh my god. I feel like sometimes I worry that, like, I worry that it's, like, my fault, you know? Like, and, like, it's not really my fault, but, like, it's, like, I contributed to, like, hurting WoW. I feel bad for it, you know? I don't know. Is that stupid for me to think? Like, I feel bad for doing that? Bald man bad. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. WoW sucks right now. Yeah, it's... I know I'm not, like... I don't cause this to happen. No, of course not. But, like, it sucks, man. It hurt itself. Yeah. Like these numbers are just so bad.
Point to a big takeaway. World of Warcraft basically must be decently below 2 million active players right now. Also, that's only one point of data. We've got no historical comparison, so to get a better picture, right? Let's go and have more data. Let's go through it. Let's talk about in-game activity in World of Warcraft. And we'll start by looking at the foundational pillar of World of Warcraft's endgame, raiding. Our first comparison will be using some recent data from Raider.io, the number of guilds who raided in the 0.0 patch compared to the 0.1 patch. Basically, tracking how many raiders don't come back for the next patch.
Yeah.
Now, while we're talking about guilds, remember that raids on normal and heroic can be anywhere between 10 and 30 players in size, although medium sizes are usually preferred by people. So if you multiply by somewhere between 15 and 20, then you'll have an extremely rough number of the characters who are involved in raiding. Anyway, let's take a look then.
I would assume that most raids have on average 14 people in them, if I had to guess. Because I would assume most groups have 10, because that's the least amount of people that you need to get into a group. So, like, most people are going to go, as soon as they can get enough people, they're going to go directly into it. So, like, 14 or so to counteract people that are, like, doing it with 20 people, etc. I would say somewhere around 14.
In the first month of Castle Nathria, 37,447 guilds killed Shriekwing and Normal. In the first month of Sanctum of Domination, only 18,594 killed Taragru.
Yeah.
So basically, half of WoW's guilds did not come back. Specifically, 50.35% didn't come back. To use our very, very rough estimate of raid size, this means anywhere between 560 and 750,000 characters killed Shriekwing in that time period, but only between 280k and 370k for Taragru.
Oh my god. It's just like I've never seen a drop off this bad in any game. And that's what's so crazy about it. I guess like in any game, I've seen drop offs this bad for other games before. That's actually not true. But for WoW, I've never seen this happen. It's kind of normal. I don't really think so. Like based off of like what I've seen and like what my experience is with the game, is it less people came back for 9.1 than people came back for, let's say, 7.1 or 8.1. I guess 8.1 is a bad example, but like 8.2.
That looks a lot.
This is pretty
smaller
lawsuit.
Than
I'm going to give you a hot take. I don't think the lawsuit is going to have any sort of a tangible impact. I think that what you're really seeing is you're seeing it's the same as like the Hong Kong thing. Like the Hong Kong thing, everybody's like, oh my God, Blizzard's dead after this. How can they ever recover? They didn't even notice it. Like the people that are making tweets about this, right? All the people on Twitter, etc. There's just a very, very small handful of them like really, whenever you calculate like the entire player base into consideration. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is that I don't think it's going to have a tangible impact where it's like, oh, after the lawsuit it went way down. I don't think that's what happened. That's what I'm really trying to say. And yeah, it's like a vocal minority of people, because like everybody leaving because of the lawsuit is probably talking about it, and everybody not leaving is not talking about it. Yeah, it's depressing to see shit like this. It really is. I'm very sad about it, but at the end of the day, I do think that it's not our fault, right? As a community, it's the developers, man. Like it's a problem. It's deserved,
count, it? It's food for thought. Out of curiosity, we took a look at the same 0.0 patch to 0.1 patch difference, but in Battle for Azeroth. The exact same methodology returns a less substantial drop in players, only 30%. Over 34,000 people killed Talok in Uldir.
Only 30% of people quit in BFA. Those were the good days, guys. Remember back whenever only 30% of the player base quit every patch? Yeah, it's so much better.
First month, and that dropped to 24,000 killing Champion of Light in Dazara Lore.
Champion's Light was really
Still
easy
huge,
too.
But it does pale in comparison to a whole 50% drop. It also means less reigning guilds in 9.1 than in 8.1, despite there being many more at the launch of Shadowlands. However, it's not all catastrophic.
I think Shadowlands was like really hyped up whenever it came out. Like more people, I think, were excited for Shadowlands than were excited for BFA.
Numerically, patch 8.2 and 8.3 had a lot fewer first boss kills in the first month.
That's wild.
Than 9.3. Nyalotha and Eternal Palace only had 14k come in for those basically free first boss normal kills. However, it still is lower than 21k for Tomb of Sargeras, which was another 0.2 patch. Messy numbers, but the point is
it just keeps
clear.
going down.
Shadowlands is performing very poorly for player retention in between the patches.
Time to add in more conduits.
Now, while we're still on the topic of raiding, we do have another figure. Mid-tier drop-off. Okay. We've looked at how many people come back to raid for a new patch, but how many actually survive to the end of the raid? Well, for this, we can look at how many guilds got ahead of the curve. Nathria had the worst drop-off ever seen, despite a record number of guilds trying...
How many guilds? How many people got ahead of the curve? Yeah, sure. It only cost $20. How much is WoW token nowadays? I don't know how much gold it is. That's insane how much less it is.
Clearing it, the percentage that actually got curve was the lowest.
This red one will go up over time, though.
That doesn't tell you really how players felt about the Shadowlands. I think nothing can.
Yeah.
Of 41,837 guilds who progressed
it hasn't been out that long.
22,979 killed Denathrius.
Yeah.
That's just shy of 55%.
Pretty high
was actually
completion rate.
Similarly bad. Only 56% of 34,000 guilds made it to Gahun.
That's actually really good. That is insanely fucking good. Because Gahun was a motherfucker. Like, in my opinion, I think Gahun... Oh, actually, N'Zoth, too. Both of the old god fights were just absolute fucking garbage. I hated that fight. Even now, going back and doing Gahun now is still annoying. That's how bad the fight was.
Most of the other raids that we've got data
it was the first month of both raids.
In the high 70s.
True.
So
you're saying the data here is shown for... This is just the first month? Wow. That's a lot less people.
4,000 guilds made it to Gahun. Most of the other raids
I didn't see it.
that we've got data for are in the high 70s. So either the 0.0 raids are harder, or the less dedicated, sort of new expansion players generally don't come back for the later patches and stick with it for ages. Now, to Shadowlands' credit, more guilds killed Denathrius and Heroic than any other end boss in modern WoW. So I guess it's a big shame about Sanctum then.
Yeah.
If you want a TLDR for raiding, this is it. Point number 1. A record number of guilds jumped into Castle Nathria, and a record number stuck through to kill Denathrius.
Because people wanted to kill Denathrius. Denathrius was an awesome boss. Like, he was a great character. Like, Denathrius is an example of Blizzard actually just bringing, Blizzard just invented Denathrius. It's not like there was any foreshadowing for this guy or anything like that. They just invented Denathrius, and he was fucking awesome. I think he was fucking awesome. I liked his personality. I liked the way like he looked. I liked like having like the sword that he would talk to. It was just really cool. So of course people would want to kill Denathrius because he's compelling villain. Sylvanas, people wanted to kill Sylvanas. If you told the players you can kill that bitch if you finish the raid, there'd be more completion for Sylvanas than there ever was. But that didn't happen.
However, the proportion of guilds who stayed
Strawberry, thanks for
to the end fell
Thank
by
you.
almost 50%.
That's crazy.
Point 2 then. The drop-off in raiding from Nathria to Sanctum of Domination is around 50%, and that is significantly worse than the 30% drop-off in early BFA. Point 3. Our very rough estimate of characters who have killed Tarragrue on normal is between 10 and 13% of the active endgame character count. On heroic, that shrinks to between 8 and 10%, and if we correct for alts, that means that somewhere between 15 and 20% of the player's rate. If nothing else, that proves that there's more to World of Warcraft, so let's look elsewhere. Let's look to the land of Mythic Plus.
Yeah, that's the thing is like now people have other ways of getting gear. Like as I said, I don't like Mythic Plus. I think it kind of sucks. And I think Blizzard, I'm just not a fan of it. I wish they would have... There's a lot that I have to say about Mythic Plus, and I'm not going to say all of it right now, but I just wish that... I wish it was more like it was back in Wrath, where there were harder dungeons that gave better gear. Because I don't really feel like I'm progressing at all whenever in BFA Season 4, I'm doing the same dungeon against the same mob with the same mechanics that I already did. Like, I just... It doesn't feel good to me.
Raider.io is again a very handy resource with, notably, the unique class population.
I know a lot of people enjoy it. I'm just not really one of them.
1.8 million unique characters complete a Mythic Plus run. Of those, 1.2 million have done a 10 or above, and 700k have done a 15 or above.
Yeah.
Now, remember a figure from earlier, that there are approximately 2.7 million active endgame characters in 9.1.
That's also not counting for people that are buying carries.
If a whole 1 million of them have not done Mythic Plus, then there are two possible options. Number 1, loads of those characters are alts and haven't done M Plus yet. That's the easiest option, and it does cut the projected player count down substantially, kind of lining up with our earlier suggestions. 2, they are unique players, but don't actually do Mythic Plus.
Yeah.
Now, since Mythic Plus is one of the 3 activities to do in endgame World of Warcraft, and
PvP,
also does provide the best, easiest source of gear for most, that doesn't bode well for the game.
No, it does not.
Unique characters don't tell the whole story. What about engagement in the Mythic Plus system?
Okay.
Well, thanks to Best Keystone, we can actually track that via completed runs.
What?
So here's a look at the 3 most recent seasons. It's early days, but the lower starting point for patch 9.1 is instantly apparent. You can see Battle for Azeroth Season 4 started off strong, just below 1 million dungeon runs per week, and it fell off slowly over time. Shadowlands Season 1, for comparison, was...
Oh, it's the yellow bar. I see it.
Start, but there actually are 2 factors there. Factor 1 is gear scaling. Mythic Zeros were providing gear for more players for longer before they needed to hop into the Keystone dungeons.
Right.
Factor 2 then is the release date of the expansion, because you can really see participation pick up in week 5, and that is when the Christmas period was well and truly over.
Yeah, that's when our people are playing the game.
But
what's kind of funny about it is that I actually feel like, how is it that BFA Season 4 had as much participation in Mythic Plus as the first patch of an expansion? That's what's so crazy to me. Is like BFA Season 4 had as much... It's like the worst of BFA was still higher participation than the best of Shadowlands. Is that it? The corruption... And that's the thing, is like, going back at it, like looking at BFA Season 4, I actually thought that was fun to play. And I'm sorry, like like Twilight Devastation's dog shit, but it was fun. It was really fun. It was fucking fun. There were a few things that were really bad with corruption, But I actually thought that corruption was a good mechanic. Like, yeah, corruption was a genuinely good mechanic that Blizzard stopped doing because they implemented it badly and they didn't cut down bad extremes, like infinite stars.
We're here to talk about the current numbers. Then I think you can see that
so
Season 2 is off to a very slow start.
No, you guys didn't like it? Dude, I loved it.
None of the time or gear barriers exist.
I thought it was awesome.
It's the opposite, since players with existing gear can immediately hop into the higher level keys. But even in each of the first 2 weeks, only around 720k runs were finished. In Season 1, it took until around week 18 to dip that low.
That's crazy.
It's hard to draw a meaningful comparison here, but patch 9.1 is trending to be 30 to 50% lower in engagement than 8.3 and 9.0. We don't have time in this video to go too deep here, but there are other interesting things, like the breakdown of classes and specs in Mythic Plus is a bit tragic. 37% of runs use a Guardian Druid tank, for example, and the bottom 6 DPS specs make up for less than 4% of overall DPS.
See, this is the problem. I know you guys can't see it. I'll show you the whole thing real quick. Look at that. Demonology, Survival, Feral is down there at like less than 1%. Arms, Fury, like that's so crazy that they can have balancing like this. It's so crazy that you have, because like the reason why you see breakdowns like this is because the balancing is just completely bad. And I understand why. And I made this chart. I want to show you guys why balancing is so bad. Because I was comparing Palace of the Dead with Torghast. And this is the way, like, for Blizzard to balance Torghast, they have to accommodate and make content that can fit all of this power gap right here. You're getting so many different buffs, so many different things, so many different items that it's changing your character's power level by so many different ways. But in Palace of the Dead, all you really have is your 50% stack at the beginning of the fight with the Pomander of Witching, or whatever it is, or not Witching, of Lust. And then you have your 30% power Pomander, Strength Pomander. That's it. So because there's so many variables in WoW, like you think about it, right? You have like the spec, you have the talents, you have the covenant, you have the conduits, you have the shards of domination now. You have all of these different things that you have to simultaneously balance together. And because of that, there's no way. Like this is to be expected. Like they're doing a good job. And that's the saddest thing. They're doing a good job because they're trying to balance 80 different things against each other in 3 different simultaneous systems. Like, imagine how much easier it would be for Blizzard to make content and balance the game if they didn't have all of these verticals to work with simultaneously.
Of runs use a Guardian Druid tank, for example, and the bottom 6 DPS specs
that is wild.
Make up for less than 4% of overall DPS.
They've got to buff warriors.
Ouch. So, that's that done. What of PvP?
PvP.
Now then, the last part of our puzzle, PvP. Our first source will be Geebs.
PvP was
Ludus
huge
Labs, who's done a
at the start of Shadowlands.
To
Massive.
hijack their summary from the end of July, PvP participation is down to around 1/3 of what it was in Season 1. This is likely due to the general people leaving, but also...
It's because you're not getting the gear. Like, that's a huge reason. PvP gear at the start of Shadowlands was insanely good. It was ridiculously good. And so there's a big part of this that is completely independent from the actual quality of the content.
So perhaps a lack of PvE relevant rewards. Using a sample of 250k characters, they found that 7.3% so far have played a 2v2, 4.6% have played a 3v3, and 3.3% have done an RBG.
People are like, oh, no, it's not, Ashman. It's because the classes aren't balanced. Please find me the Clack video from every season in BFA where it showed the same clips of people getting one-shot. They've always been broken. They've always been bad. Let's be honest.
That's not a lot of participation, although the lack of PvE rewards, I guess, could be to blame. let's just take a look at the raw numbers then. So here is a chart from Zunimate tracking the amount of games played each day in Season 2. All right, no prizes for guessing when this season started. That huge spike of activity fell off extremely sharply before stabilizing. And
that is insane.
As of August 8th, there are around 18k games of 2v2s, 34k games of 3v3s, and 8k games of RBGs being played on the daily. From May to June, it stayed around...
What I find is really interesting here is how 2v2 was way more popular at the beginning, and then it dropped off. That's what I think is really interesting there. Like, there's actually less people doing 2v2 now than doing 3v3.
That's 7k arena matches and 1k RBGs per day.
I think it's because it's just easier to play. Boosting probably plays a factor too, though. For sure.
Numbers from the start of Season 1.
Oh, 3v3 is boosting. I get it, yeah.
The peaks
That's
are
a good point.
larger in 2s and 3s, and the general fall-off is a lot slower. We're limited by the numbers we can actually check here, but let's use 3 weeks as our cutoff point. 3 weeks after Season 1 started, there were around 80k arena matches and 20k RBG matches being played each day. And now, at the same point in Season 2, there's around 50k matches for the arena and 8k for RBGs. And that is getting close to a 50% overall drop-off, which roughly does match the rest of our numbers.
That sucks, man.
In conclusion then, Shadowlands has screwed the pooch. That's just what it is. We have the numbers. The beginning of this expansion had record raid numbers, over 6 million active characters, and a healthy blend of PvE and PvP. For all the quality and systems issues that Shadowlands had, it did bring people to the game excited and ready for some content. I guess the problem is that content never materialized, and those systems kind of ran aground once you went more than a few weeks into them.
The big reason, in my opinion, is because the content didn't come out fast enough. Here's the thing. If Blizzard cut out all of the catch-up mechanisms, not all, but like 90% of the catch-up mechanisms, 80%, at least 50% of the catch-up mechanisms, and then they also made the raids progressive. Like, you had to do one raid to go to the next raid, and then they brought out raids regularly, they wouldn't lose players as fast because people would be continuously progressing through the content. The problem is fundamentally that you go into the new patch, if you come and you play Shadowlands right now, you come into the game, you don't even play Castle Nathria anymore. There's no reason. So like Final Fantasy. Yes! Yes! And this is the same thing as a Burning Crusade too. Burning Crusade was great.
Just that systems heavy expansion and perhaps also the lore direction have just turned people away from World of Warcraft.
The lore is a problem.
Now, just after 9.1's launch, there are almost certainly less than 2 million people playing World of Warcraft, at least at the end game, which really is most of World of Warcraft, with that drop-off basically being across all activity measurements. I mean, roughly, you're speaking half of the characters, half the raiding guilds, about 30% less Mythic Plus being completed, and about half the engagement in PvP. And we haven't even seen where those raid and M plus numbers are going to go over the coming weeks, so maybe I'll have to do an update video.
Oh my god.
Now remember, by the way, these numbers do not include the damage that the lawsuits have done. These numbers are pre that. The potential to bring people back should still be there with Shadowlands. I mean, it was the fastest selling PC game ever at the time of launch, and Blizzard's whole strategy revolves around explosive expansion marketing and then monetizing content launches with, you know, you've got your jacked up editions, you've got your 6-month sub promos, things like that. But the question is, will they be able to sell an expansion to people who have been burned by Shadowlands? To the fans who feel betrayed by their beloved company's behavior internally? I mean, is there a lore hook and a content hook that can actually reclaim all of that lost ground?
I like how the jailer just like, without even really moving his hand, he just traps the three of the most powerful fucking people in all of Azeroth. And we're supposed to know, like, we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, we're gonna beat him. Yeah, we're totally gonna we're gonna beat him. Like, how you make that a boss? Like, he's like, oh, you're in chains now. It's fine. It is what it is. Like, Thrall powerful? Thrall is the most powerful shaman in all of Azeroth. What do you mean? Yeah, but he's in the Shadowlands now. That's a good point. But like, yeah, it's gonna have to be Sargeras to kill the Jailer. I think that's what would make sense to me. But overall, like, yeah, I think people will come back for the game if it's good. I think that's the thing. But I think now, like, WoW is genuinely in the place where it has to like win back its players. That's like one way I would look at it.
I guess we'll just have to follow up when we get next month numbers, so we really know what's going on. They may not be pretty. It's a rough situation. I would like to say a big thanks to Squarespace, especially in these rough times. Having sponsors like Squarespace stick with us is just an awesome thing. Really helps us. And the great thing is they're an awesome company. They've got an awesome set of tools. We use them, so check out the link below. And a big thank you to them for helping to make content like this possible.
Sure.
That's it for me. Let me know what you think. Take care. I'll see you next time.
I'm glad I saw this video. I really do like seeing the actual numbers. I think seeing the numbers and getting an idea of like what's really going on is very enlightening for me personally. Like, especially seeing some of these. Like, this is just crazy. Like, losing that many people is fucking nuts. These graphs are a huge disappointment. They're not what's this here? These are not real numbers. Stop lying. I don't know, man. Like, the thing is that if you really think that this is not indicative of a player-based shift, then I don't know what to tell you. Like, I understand that the numbers are not accurate, but the trends are, because they're using the same data points. So if you assume all other things are equal, if you're assuming that it's wrong 50% of the time, and you have 100 on one and 50 on the other, you just went down by 50 no matter what, and the same error rate was present in both cases. Like, it makes sense. Like, if you logically think about this, you would come to that conclusion. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's the same. It's the same type of data. Like, you're not comparing two different sets of data. You're comparing two different points on the same data graph. Either way, huge disappointment to see that happening. Actually, let me go ahead and link the video for you guys before we start this real quick. I think we have we got some primals to kill, don't we, boys?